Summer, a wonderful time. Especially if you live in the land of fire. It is not as hot as in Suna or cold and foggy as in Kiri. Naruto Uzumaki felt the same way. He loved summer. Now 6 months after the end of the war, Naruto became a jonin just 2 months ago and wanted to join the ANBU like Minato. He became a hero all over the world, and this added to his fame and popularity. The girls of Konoha, and not only, ran after him in droves. Usually, Uzumaki just ran away and he really got sick of it. Wherever he went, even to the Hokage after a difficult and successfully completed mission, a horde of female fans followed him everywhere, unnoticed. They give gifts, confess their love, ask for a date, and some go even further. The guy even had to leave clones for the night after an incident when he was kidnapped from his house at night in the most brazen way. Tired, asleep, and half-naked. And now he was running away from another crowd of civilian women, since the shinobi professionally knew how to hide and hide. Slightly breaking away from the chase, Uzumaki turned into a narrow and dark alley. Jumping up on the wall through the garbage cans, he quickly rushed along the roofs to his house. By the way, Naruto no longer lived in his small room in the dormitory, but in a real mansion, which he inherited from his father and mother. Although Udatain Koharu and Mito Kadohamura were against giving the rightful heir his estate, Tsunade was able to influence the situation. While still serving as the 5th Hokage of Konoha, she stated that the war hero, the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed demon fox, the heir by blood, and Jonin Uzumaki Namikaze simply had to give him his homestead on the edge of the village, rather than huddle in a small room with a kitchen. For this, the blonde man was inexpressibly grateful to her, because practically no one knew that Naruto had moved and the blue-eyed man could sleep peacefully for a month. Quickly flying into a 2-story house, the guy locked the door with all the bolts. The only day off for a week, and he is in ambush. And Senju had left the village somewhere, and there was real chaos in her office. Shizen nervously ran around the floor with stacks of papers in her hands, dragging them into Tsunade's office. Naruto helped her, but decided not to finish her off with another report after the mission. Where 5 had gone, Kato did not know. On the street, the guy met Kakashi and Sakura, peacefully walking the streets and holding hands, as well as Gaara and Hinata, who also became a couple after the war. As for the first couple, Uzumaki could not say, they just came to him one day and said that they were dating. Naruto was happy for them. Sakura was not jealous as he fell out of love with Haruno before the war, but as if by inertia he continued to inspire himself. Gaara, on the other hand, had always respected and loved the blue-eyed man as his best friend, but there was something that made him jealous. And this is Hinata. It turned out that the dog, the impenetrable Kazekage of the village of Sand Village, liked the shy girl Hyuga. Only today, he had come to Konoha for a week, leaving Baki as his deputy, but he didn't know what was happening in Sun now, what was happening now in the Hokage's office. After waving to his friends, the blonde went home, as another chase began for him. Namikaze pondered. Well, I don't have to sit my only day off at home, Databeo. The guy was not satisfied with the alignment of events, but remembering the small and inconspicuous door of the back door, he mentally slapped himself on the forehead. But where to go? It is dangerous to walk around Konoha. I am too lazy to take a mission. Remembering the river a kilometer from the village, he decided everything. Summer, sun, heat, dance until morning to the beach running. He began to get ready, plugging all the holes through which he could see what the owner was doing. Quickly putting objects in a braided basket, Uzumaki hummed a cheerful tune. Well, I took my glasses, I took some cream, I took water, I took a towel and a bedspread, I barely stuffed a folding chair. He thought to himself, but glancing in the mirror he realized what was missing. Naruto was standing in light ANBU pants and a blue sweater with drops of blood. Rushing to the wardrobe and breaking it, Namikaze finally found what he was looking for. Orange swimming trunks with an elastic band, quite long, not reaching the knees by 15 centimeters and not tightly fitting to the body. After wearing them, Naruto still did not remove the feeling of dissatisfaction, and then he began to build a logical chain. Leaving for the whole day? Yes. So you need sunscreen so as not to burn, but I took it. So food. That's right. But you can't make ramen on the beach, maybe fruit? There were different chocolates that would quickly melt in the sun in such heat. Different fruits, but you will not be satisfied with them and just a huge watermelon weighing about 10 kilograms. There was no other option, and Naruto washed the berry and put it in a bag with strong handles. Meanwhile, the crowd of girls at the door grew and grew. Okay, at least they don't break into the door. Yes, at this rate, it is not noticeable that he will not get out. Having created a clone, Naruto used a henjana to make it look the same as after the mission, and suppressed his chakra in case of censor girls, mentally hoping that there are no people with a Byakugan there. The Uzumaki sent him to be torn to pieces, and for credibility, he handed over 2 bags of garbage to make it believable. Naruto and his clone left the house at the same time, one in only swimming trunks with a basket and a bag in his hands, the other into a crowd of women with 2 useless bags. The original rushed out of the village, climbing over a large wall. After 200 meters, Naruto gained experience from the dispelled clone, mentally laughing at the picture of how his copy scares away fans with 2 bags. The guy continued to run and did not even think about slowing down. So he got to his goal and froze. It turned out that not only Jinchuriki decided to take a break that day away from the noise of the village. In the shallow water of the river, knee-deep in water and playing ball, throwing it over a stretched net, Tsunade, Senju, and Mei Torimi ran. The girls were dressed only in green and blue bikinis. Mei's hair was tucked back in a high ponytail so as not to stray behind her red hair. Tsunade has 2 low ponytails as always. The game was in full swing. The women were throwing a ball to each other, while talking about something, and were so carried away that they did not even notice a new face next to them. After recovering from a slight shock, Naruto walked to the place where there were 2 towels with chairs and a sun umbrella. The Uzumaki decided not to disturb the kunoichi who had not noticed him, but only to peacefully sit nearby. He would not refuse against such a company. He was even glad that he would not be alone here. He spread a blue towel on the sand, put a basket and a bag of watermelon on it. You want the full story, without censorship? Then rush to my Patreon. For just $4 a month, you unlock over 380 episodes of epic fan stories, from fandoms you've never even heard of. From classics like Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, to One Punch Man, DxD, and tons of taboo crossovers found nowhere else. Link in the description, or pinned comment. Subscribe now, and drown in unfiltered adult heat. 1 sub, the entire NSFW multiverse, in your pocket. And laid out a plastic chair next to it. The guy took turns taking things out of the basket, watching the Hokage match against the Mizukage. They played like this, having already lost count for another 10 minutes and agreed to a draw, when suddenly someone clapped. On the chair next to him sat a 17-year-old handsome guy with blue eyes, wheat-colored hair, 3 stripes on his cheeks and a slight smile. Naruto said this to the only 2 female Kage as they began to approach him. "Thank you, Naruto-kun," they both said in unison. The blonde continued. "Naruto, what are you doing here?" I just decided to take a day off at the beach and, apparently, I'm not the only one," the guy said, winking with an azure eye. The women's cheeks turned pink. "Well, I think you can join us then, don't you think, Tsunade?" said Mei in such an innocent, even slightly childish voice. Tsunade just nodded approvingly. "By the way, Tsunade-san, Mei-san, why are you here?" the blonde man asked this time. Naruto-kun, let's not be so formal. Tsunade and I are already tired of the business tone," Mei asked, and both began to answer the question. An hour earlier, the Hokage's office. The 2 Kages sat opposite each other, having finished their meeting on peace and trade between Kirigakure and Konohagakure. Forgetting about the officialdom, the brown-eyed woman asked. May, are you going to Konoha for a long time? Oh, I wanted to do it for at least a week. I'm tired of these documents. I don't have the strength anymore, do you understand? Said the Mizukage, cutting off her sour face. Tsunade smiled. She knew better than anyone that the horror of any kage is documents. No matter how you fill out these pieces of paper, they don't get smaller. It's like some kind of curse. Well, then at least stay for 2. I understand everything. And I could use a rest too. Really? Tsunade, you're just the best. Maybe then we'll go somewhere, show me the village or… But Shizen, who kicked the door and held a whole pile of documents in her arms, did not let Terumi finish. Tsunade only moaned pitifully. Mei looked at her friend sympathetically. Tsunade-sama. I'm sorry for the intrusion, but we have a whole pile of papers. Mei, apparently not today, the slug princess said, with a sad smile. No, let's go now, the Mizukage began, pulling her colleague's hand out of the chair. But where? In the village of Shizen, we will be quickly found. Although she is unlikely to go outside the village, how do you like the idea of going to the beach on the outskirts and relaxing there, Shizen, how many of them are there? Senju already yelled. About 2 more such heaps. A voice from the corridor rang out no less loudly. Let's go faster and quietly, through the window, the redhead said almost in a whisper, climbing onto the windowsill and opening the window. Mei, you're a conspirator, Tsunade giggled, repeating her friend's actions. The assistant entered the office again, but instead of 2 women, an open window and sheets of paper flying in the wind were waiting for her. Beach real time. Now all 3 people were giggling at the story. Oh, how can you not run away? It's almost the same with myself. And how? Asked Senju, imagining the answer in general terms, and Mei was just curious about what had happened. Oh, as if you don't know? And who saved me once? Uzumaki said, but noticing that the other woman did not understand what he was talking about, he decided to clarify. It's all about the fans. After the war they practically do not let me out of sight. Just today I got out. The guy added, almost groaning with annoyance. And Nikunoichi only chuckled at the girls' antics, so they would definitely not achieve anything. Suddenly, Naruto had an idea that was just beautiful to him. Build a tower of clones from which you can jump into the water. The guy jumped up from his seat with a smile and rushed to the water, under the surprised look of his neighbors. Having created the structure, Naruto examined it, and, making sure of the strength of the building, decided to test it in practice. Climbing onto the shoulders of the last clone, Uzumaki jumped off it, but not as he would have liked. Instead of a soldier, he broke through the calm surface of the water with his belly. Laughing, the guy got out of the water and went to the shore, shaking off his hair. Droplets of water flowed from her neck onto her pumped chest and abs. It was not hidden from the gaze of the 2 women. They looked at it greedily. Uzumaki simply walked over to them and said with a smile, "Who else wants to try?" "Come on!" The Mizukage was the first to try the attraction. Naruto gave her his hand. Grinning, she accepted the help and jerked a little harder, so that the young man's face was in front of her. "Well? Let's go, Naruto-kun," she whispered in his ear, which made him blush, only nodding his head uncertainly. Walking towards the clone tower, Naruto placed the green-eyed woman on his shoulders and helped her climb up. Once at the top, Mei thought as she looked at the blue river. Unlike the only male person here, the woman jumped into the water carefully and almost without splashes. This is what it means to live in a country surrounded by oceans and seas. For Mei, such entertainment seemed somehow strange and unknown, but this does not mean that she did not like it. Being a kage is a big responsibility, so there was no time for fun. She came out of the water and let her hair down from the elastic band. The sight was truly mesmerizing. Naruto also couldn't help himself. As soon as Terumi came out of the water, Uzumaki decided to pay him a compliment. "Good jump, Mei-chan." The Mizukage was surprised after she became the leader of the rebels, and until today, no one had approached her. "Well, didn't you ask without formality?" The jonin continued to behave a little playfully. No one can play this game better than me, the woman thought and smiled vulgarly. Immediately, the redhead appeared in front of Naruto, slightly pressing against him, so that her lips were near her ear. Her hands were on the back of his head and shoulder, her chest pressed against her torso, and her fingers were ruffling her hair and easily scratching her skin. I think Tsunade-chan also wants to play, and Naruto-kun, the woman purred, and the interlocutor's face turned red. Why yes, I guess. Naruto looked a lot like Chojuro now. The same thing happened with Tsunade. Naruto got the Hokage hooked on the living tower. The blonde jumped like a Konoha bomb, creating a wave of splashes that wet the guy from head to toe. The clones dissipated. That's our way! He shouted as the girl floated to the surface. And again, it's the same story as with Mei. Tsunade came out of the water with her hair down, shaking it off the water and swaying her hips slightly. After drying out a little, all three shinobi were hungry. It was then that Naruto remembered his best tasty and super heavy watermelon. But as soon as the knife entered the fruit, the watermelon, like a mean citrus fruit, squirted Uzumaki juice in his face. The incident was accompanied by the giggling of two ladies and the effort of the guy. Finally, the berry was cut and the ninja began to eat. In about 20 minutes this striped was defeated and only horns, and crust legs, and a tail remained of him. After putting the leftovers in a bag, Naruto looked at the sun. You could say that it was about 4, but the heat did not subside. The women settled on blankets to sunbathe. As suddenly, Naruto-kun, can you put some cream on my back, please? Me too, this finished him off to the edge. LOK. Namikaze smeared his hands with cream and began to rub their backs to the satisfied purr of two women. But something happened that caused a trickle of blood to flow down Naruto's nose. The women unfastened the straps on their bras. Being trained by Jiraiya, the guy was perverted and mature beyond his years. Pretending that this was the way it should be, Naruto continued to do his job. Her arms were already going down her backs, reaching her lower back. The guy removed his hands, but after an indignant moan from two representatives of the fair sex, he realized that he needed to continue. He began to rub his already slender legs. And I just thought about completing the mission, but it wasn't here. The Mizukage and Hokage rolled over on folding chairs, as if they had been doing this all their lives. Come on, Naruto-kun, now from this side. He clearly could not say a normal phrase. The women just smirked and winked at each other as they sat closer. After smearing their hands, they began to smear each other. From such a scene, Uzumaki's brain seemed to fly away, leaving only a red face with a trickle of blood from his nose and a throbbing hardness in his swimming trunks, which the guy tried to cover. Her hands lightly touched the curves of the woman, sliding over her shoulders, waist, and hips. The Kage looked at Naruto, and a sly smile appeared on his lips. They looked at each other and nodded to each other that they were ready. Instantly, Mei and Tsunade were on both sides of the guy. Mei on the left, Tsunade on the right. It seems that we have completely forgotten about our hero. What do you think, Tsunade? The redhead asked in the boy's ear in a sultry and hoarse voice. I think the same. And again the same sexy voice whispers in my ear. Thin, delicate hands slid over her tan skin, chest, abs, and muscular back. Two pairs of hands massaged his tense neck, which made Naruto relax. Her chest pressed against her back, and the Uzumaki felt like some kind of large, rounded soft pillows. Naruto leaned back, completely putting himself and his body at the mercy of the two women. Mei and Tsunade smirked. Everything was going according to plan. Naruto felt something soft and tender on both cheeks. When he opened his eyes, he saw Tsunade and Mei's faces, brown and green eyes staring at him. Senju was the first to lunge at him, covering his lips with hers. Mei began to make a path of kisses from her cheek to her collarbones, nibbling the skin a little. The blonde already liked it and got the taste. He returned the kiss by sticking his tongue into Tsunade's mouth and moaned as Terumi nibbled on the sensitive skin on her neck once again. Hands brazenly made their way up and down the backs and sides of the partners. Besides, the bras did not interfere as they were unbuttoned and hung like unnecessary rags, barely covering the nipples. Due to the need for oxygen, Tsunade finished kissing. As soon as Uzumaki could sigh, Mei took Senju's place. Who knew that two women like young and handsome guys, or rather the blonde who is now with them? That was why Jiraiya had already been in flight for several years. Terumi began to transmit her chakra through the kiss in the form of hot steam. This provoked the guy even more. Tsunade was now rubbing her hand through Naruto's crotch, licking his neck. Want the uncensored 18+ part? Only $4 per month on Patreon, 380+ scorching episodes. The beach was deserted. Only the gentle crash of waves and the cries of seagulls broke the silence. The sun was sinking toward the horizon, painting the sky in deep pinks and burning oranges, while the sand still radiated the day's heat beneath their bare feet. Tsunade stood completely naked in front of Naruto, her pulse roaring in her ears. She had watched this boy grow from a loud-mouthed, lonely child into the man now towering before her. Sun-kissed skin stretched over hard muscle, abs carved like stone, and his wand already fully erect, thick and heavy, a single bead glistening at the tip. The sight alone made her inner walls clench and fresh wetness coat her thighs. "This is wrong." A faint voice tried to protest inside her head. "Wrong?" She silenced it instantly. "He's 24, gorgeous, and I've spent decades without a man who could handle me. He's more than earned this." Beside her, Mei Terumi let the last piece of clothing fall. She hooked her thumbs into the waistband of her soaked white panties and dragged them down inch by inch, bending slightly so Naruto could see everything: the neat crimson landing strip, the flushed, swollen lips already glistening with desire. When the fabric finally dropped to the sand, she stepped out of it and spread her legs just enough to give him an unobstructed view of her soaked flower. Naruto's throat worked soundlessly. His hardness jerked so hard it slapped against his stomach, leaving a wet streak. Tsunade moved first. Her massive chest swayed with every step, pink nipples stiff and aching. She sank to her knees in the warm sand. Mei mirrored her instantly. Two legendary Kage, rulers of nations, now knelt at the feet of the man they once swore to protect. "Look at him," Mei breathed, wrapping her slender fingers around the base of his wand. She gave one slow, deliberate stroke from root to crown, forcing out a fat, glistening drop. "So hard for us already." Tsunade didn't speak. She simply leaned in and licked that drop away with the flat of her tongue, savoring the salty taste of him. Naruto's hips bucked involuntarily. A strangled groan tore from his throat. "Easy, baby," Tsunade purred, cupping his heavy pouch and rolling it gently in her palm. "We have all night. Want the uncensored 18+ part? Only $4 per month on Patreon. 380+ scorching episodes." When the first pale fingers of dawn finally crept through the curtains, they finally collapsed, a sweaty, sticky, utterly spent pile of limbs. Tsunade curled against his left side, one leg thrown possessively over his thigh, fingers tracing lazy circles through the mess on his abs. Mei mirrored her on the right, cheek pressed to his chest, one hand gently cupping his softening wand like she owned it. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Tsunade's sleepy voice broke the silence. "Shizen can run the village for a week," Mei hummed in agreement. "I already sent a water clone to cancel everything in mist for the next month." Naruto's fried brain managed one last coherent thought before he passed out with both women draped over him like living blankets. Best mission ever. The heavy night was over. The heavy, glorious days, maybe weeks, were just beginning. And he wouldn't trade them for all the ramen in the world.